Hey, welcome back to Planet Hex. I'm Andrew Haunt. Now, many of you know that I like my 80s horror movies. I like them a lot, but I'm the first person to admit that not all of them are that great. In many cases, the poster art is better than the film themselves. And that made me think, let's have a look through some of the examples of 80s horror movie posters that are better than the movie. Now, a disclaimer, I love these films. I love them. I love them dearly. But I agree they're not great. But I watch a lot of crap, but it makes me happy, so why not? So here are 10 80s horror movie posters that were better than their films. First of all, I've got to start with something very obvious to me, which is Chopping Mall. You can't go wrong with Chopping Mall. 1986 horror movie about a bunch of teenagers in a shopping mall overnight, and the security robots go nuts. However, this image here, that way. This image here does not appear in the movie. There's no cyborg hand. The robots look like big vacuum cleaners. There's no bag of limbs, but there is a great exploding headshot. So if you've never seen Chopping Mall, give it a try, but do not expect to see that in the movie at all. The next one is also a bit obvious to me, which is good old Charlie Band's involvement. I do love Charles Band. And this is Ghoulies, the original Ghoulies movie from 1985. Now, this was an idea that was put together after the film was done. As far as I understand, according to Charlie's autobiography and the Empire books that I've got. So Ghoulies had been made, and they had the idea to have a ghoulie coming out of the toilet with the catchphrase, "They'll get you in the end." So a scene actually featuring this was added to the movie. Very quickly, very cheaply, just so that did actually appear in the movie. But as much as I love Ghoulies, it's very rubbery, it's very silly, and it's not a great movie, but the poster is just genius. How could someone not want to go see that? I've seen it many times, and I do adore that movie, but it's far from perfect, but that's part of the charm of these things, isn't it? The next one I'm going to bring up has two titles. In the UK, it's called The Edge of Hell. In the US, it was Rock and Roll Nightmare. And this stars Thor. I say stars. There's a metal singer in the 80s called Thor. And it was John Mickle Thor, I believe his name was. And this poster is incredible. It's like classic fantasy art. But they didn't have the budget or the talent, to actually recreate something like that on screen at all. Spectacular failure, but the film is charming in its own way, including one of the silliest end battles I've ever seen in anything. I will be covering this movie in my new book, vhsatemybrain Heavy Metal Horrors, so look out for that soon. I had to include that. I know it's not a very obvious one, a very well-known one, but by crikey, does that poster promise things that it can't deliver. Next one I'm going to mention is another favourite of mine, which is called Evil Speak, with Clint Howard in it, playing Stanley Cooper Smith, who gets bullied a lot at a military school and manages to raise Satan, or the spirit of a witch, and eventually the devil, with a computer. Why not? It's very modern, it's very postmodern now, and it's a crazy film, but it doesn't quite live up to the promise of the poster. There are some great visuals in it, with Clint flying with a big sword lopping off heads, but it does not live up to the promise of that poster there, which is a shame because it had so much promise. The trailer's good. Even the trailer's better than the movie, but I do love that poster. The next one I'm going to mention is Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Now, of course, the first Return of the Living Dead starring Linnea Quigley, yay, Linnea Quigley, was a classic, and it had some amazing artwork. Return of the Living Dead Part 2 features some of the same characters, some of the same actors coming back in different roles. Sadly, not Linnea Quigley, she was busy doing other stuff, probably Nightmare Sisters by this point, that sort of thing. Before Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, though. So this is a really, really cool piece of cover art. Makes me think of Fright Night. But that is amazing cover art, but the film does not deliver. It's a silly horror comedy. It came out as a 15 rather than an 18. The gore is a lot sillier. It's a lot more childish humour, but not in the same sort of punky, trashy way the original was put forward. See, I even got a Linnea Quigley mention just then by saying trash. Well done if you noticed that. But yeah, Return of the Living Dead Part 2, I do like the movie. It's fun. I got it as a kid. I was far too young to be seeing these things on big box VHS, and I still have that copy. But this cover art is the best. This poster art is gorgeous. It's so evocative and eye-catching. Perfectly done. Love that one. Next one is the Mutilator. You can't go wrong with a tagline: by sword, by picks, by axe, bye bye. Brilliant tagline. Great poster. Fair to middling slasher movie. It's just an 80s slasher movie. There has been a sequel that's just been done of it like this year, which is nuts. And it's a bit of a tough watch, but if you're a fan of the original, go check it out. You'll see some people returning. But this is a decent poster. Evocative stuff like Three on a Meat Hook, I think, from the 70s, but this is not as good as the poster promises. Another one that really dropped the ball in terms of the movie itself, Nightmare City. This 1980 zombie movie has one of the craziest openings ever. A plane lands unannounced at a US airport and is ordered to open up, and explain who it is, explain who's landed in America without any permits and no knowledge of anyone. It opens up, it's full of axe-wielding zombies that have got poo for makeup. It looks like poo. It looks like they've had a terrible accident over their own heads. But yeah, it's like porridge and just excrement, which fairly describes much of the film. I have seen it several times. For my sins, not always sober, thankfully, but that actually improves the experience. Don't watch this sober. But yeah, great poster, very, very dodgy film, but still entertaining to be aware of. The next one I'm going to mention is a favourite of mine. I keep saying a favourite of mine because I love this nonsense. Dungeon Master from 1984, otherwise known as Rage War, The Trials of Excalibrate. This was an Empire Pictures project with like 7 shorts put together into a movie-length story with an overarching theme, and each of those shorts was made by a different crew and a different director. So this is one of the most disjointed things you'll ever watch, but it's so fun, and the Dungeon Master himself has a lot of fun being a evil wizard with magic powers in the age of D&D and the Satanic Panic. I would imagine that got this a lot more awareness than it otherwise would have. But yeah, the poster does promise more than the film can deliver. I'm also going to mention Spookies. I've mentioned Spookies a few times on this channel before. This is a movie that was stitched together from stuff that was unfinished and some new stuff was added. There's farting mud monsters, there's vampires, there's a lot of weird stuff, a lot of disjointed stuff. It got put together after, I think it was like half the movie was filmed 2 years before the other parts. So there's like half a movie that's been made with one set of cast members, and then the rest of it has been kind of designed to make a longer story out of what was available from that old footage. And it's a very weird experience. Not a great film at all, but just the title and how the artwork was put across, really, really fun. Love that one. The last one in this list I'm going to mention is from 1982, and this one is not many people will be aware of this one. This is called Boarding House. Now, this is a curio, as Boarding House was the first feature film released widely that was shot on VHS. It was shot on video. And it even received a limited theatrical run. Imagine VHS blown up to cinema size. That's going to look a bit rough, isn't it? But this is quite a cool poster with the lady being dragged down into the bed. It's precursor to Nightmare on Elm Street, because this was like 2 years before that. But it's quite an arresting visual, but the film itself is deranged. It makes very little sense. It's largely an excuse to make people get their clothes off and then die. So it's like life in that sense, in a way, I guess. But yeah, great poster, terrible movie, but worth seeing just for the historical aspect of it, because it was shot on VHS and it had this limited theatrical run. It was weird, very strange time, and it kicked off the SOV horror scene being given a lot more notice and getting a lot more rentals out of things before Blockbuster came and ruined everything. So that is a list of 10 80s horror movie posters that were better than the films they were advertising. What's your favourite? I'm sure there are hundreds of these. Pop them down below in the comments. I'd love to see what your ideas are for posters that were better than their movies. Until we meet again, I'm Andrew Horn. This is Planet Hex. I talk about a lot of nonsense on here, a lot of VHS culture, a lot of old movies, and that sort of thing. And I write books about stuff like that. But you all know that anyway. Just, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time for the next episode of Planet Hex.